Do you know what each of us does every day? Without even noticing it, we justify ourselves. Pause absolutely everything. Every word, every action, every thought. And this is one of the most insidious traps of human nature. Imagine, whatever we do, whatever pain we cause to others, however we make mistakes, in our own eyes we always remain right. Always. We will find 1,000 reasons to explain our actions. And it doesn't matter that these reasons won't satisfy those who suffered from us. The main thing is that they satisfy us ourselves. This is self-justification, a mechanism that works like clockwork, preserving our sense of being right. Without it, our self-respect would collapse. But here's the paradox. This process is completely unconscious. We don't even notice how we constantly justify ourselves. Imagine self-justification as an invisible lawyer who lives in our head. He works around the clock, without weekends and vacations. As soon as we do something questionable, and he immediately stands up for defense, finding iron arguments in our favor. Late for an important meeting? The traffic was terrible. Rude to a close person? He brought me to it himself. Didn't fulfill a promise? Circumstances changed. Our internal lawyer never loses cases, because we ourselves are the judge in this process. This is an automatic reaction. Esoteric psychology calls such existence sleep. Yes, we sleep while awake, lulled by the cozy feeling of our own consciousness. We are actually just a mechanism, blindly reacting to life events. It's like a smartphone that executes programs without thinking about what it does. Pressed a button, an application turned on, an event occurred. Self-justification launched. No conscious choice, no true understanding. Among all mechanisms of self-satisfaction, self-justification is the main conductor of this orchestra of illusions. A person lives automatically, firmly feeling inside himself. Whatever he does, says, or thinks, it's right. Let the whole world disagree with him. Here's a simple example. A driver cuts off another car in traffic. In his head immediately sounds justification. I'm rushing to the doctor. Or this idiot is to blame himself. Drives too slowly. And the driver of the second car at the same moment thinks, what an impudent person. Probably considers himself the center of the universe. Everyone is right in their own eyes. Everyone is a victim of circumstances or someone else's stupidity. But here's the catch. All others also justify themselves. An endless circle turns out. Everyone sees others' mistakes, but never their own. It's like a mirror labyrinth, where each reflection shows us righteousness, and curved mirrors show others' flaws. Family quarrels are a perfect example of this mechanism. Husband forgot to buy milk. I had a hard day at work. Was thinking about important things. Wife shouted at children. They drove me to white heat with their disobedience. Everyone will find a reason why exactly he is right. And the other doesn't understand the situation. Or work conflicts. Boss shouts at subordinates. I demand results. There's no other way to reach them. Subordinate is late with a project. They gave me unrealistic deadlines and constantly distract me. However, there is a way to break out of this circle. Self-observation. When we begin to closely observe ourselves, we discover self-justification at work, and we can try to stop its insidious activity. But this requires incredible courage. Imagine that you wore rose-colored glasses all your life that showed the world in a pleasant light. And suddenly someone suggests taking them off. It's scary. What if reality turns out not to be as we imagined it? You see, the goal of self-justification is obvious. To support our pride and faith in ourselves. This is the basis of morality of that personality we feel ourselves to be. If this morality is shaken, we will feel a threat to all our identification. And the personality will never endure this. Our personality is like a house of cards built from beliefs about our own righteousness. To admit a mistake means to pull out one card. And what if the whole house collapses? What if we understand that most of our actions were wrong? Our ego simply won't survive this. Hence the blind automatism of self-justification. This mental process is so deeply rooted in us that it has become almost unconscious. It acts like an immune system, protects us from viruses of doubts about our own righteousness. Widely spread is the habit of automatically saying, "I'm not to blame. I couldn't help anything," even when people know that they are exactly to blame. But to admit this frankly, sigh. This is rare. It's much easier to blame others or circumstances beyond our control. Remember childhood. A broken vase always fell by itself. Unlearned lessons were the result of too difficult assignment. And a fight with a classmate happened because he started first. We grew up, but the habit remained. Only justifications became more sophisticated. A student failed an exam. The teacher is nitpicking. Questions weren't from the program. A businessman lost a client. The market is difficult now. Competitors are dumping. A politician lost elections. Voters aren't ready for changes. Opponents use dirty technologies. We resort to self-justification not only in small matters, but also in the most important affairs of our lives. We simply cannot bear the thought that our actions might be a mistake. A passionate desire to see ourselves as right always lives in us. Even in love, we justify ourselves. Partner's betrayal. He didn't understand me. Divorce. We were too different. Conflicts with children. They don't appreciate what I do for them. We turn every life drama into a heroic saga, where we are positive characters, and others or circumstances are always to blame. And this causes unspeakable harm to our inner development. Self-justification is not just a psychological habit. This is a prison in which we voluntarily confine ourselves. The walls of this prison are built from our justifications, and the lock is from our unwillingness to see the truth. Listen carefully. Genuine inner revelation cannot exist while the habit of self-justification persists. Therefore, it is vitally important to realize its existence. We must fully feel the degree and cunning of our self-justification in order to stop it. Only when we stop justifying ourselves can we see ourselves in a different light, without embellishment, without a mask. And do you know what demands constant self-justification from us? Our false self. It can control us and keep us in slavery only as long as we accept it as genuine. That's why the false self must justify everything. It cannot live without an illusory sense of its own worth, because there is no true worth in it. And deep down it knows this. Hence the frantic efforts to keep us in its clutches. And self-justification is one of the main tools. When we realize the scale of our self-justification and see the harm it causes to our nature, we will begin to try to stop this process. We will begin to acknowledge responsibility for wrong words and actions. And here's what gives real courage: to admit not only to others, but to ourselves that we acted wrongly. This is the most difficult task. Even if we apologize to people, it's still incredibly difficult for us to honestly admit guilt to ourselves, because we will always find reasons for self-justification. To develop the ability to face ourselves and honestly, impartially admit without any evasions that we really acted wrongly. This is a great step towards self-knowledge, the most important milestone on the path to the true self. And here's what's surprising. The true self never engages in self-justification. It doesn't need it. This is how we learn that our self is inauthentic. And this opens the possibility to discover and proclaim authenticity within us. Until we do this, we are nothing. A parody of ourselves, disguised as a human only because we have a physical body and mental mechanisms. But to discover the true self, we must first understand it really exists. Without this understanding, we won't take a single step toward its discovery. Now, the personality is active, that part of us which we realize and through which we think we can act. But in reality, we don't act in the true sense of this word. We only react to events. Therefore, before something more real becomes active, the personality must become passive. Through self-observation, remembering cases of self-justification, attempts to avoid it, we take a huge step toward putting the personality into a passive state. And this is the most important condition for awakening the true self. When the personality becomes passive as a result of work on oneself, essence becomes fully active. When essence displaces personality, then the true self can take leadership upon itself. And in this lies the great success of human existence. Friends, the path to your true self begins with an honest look at the mechanisms that enslave us. Self-justification is one of the most powerful and imperceptible among them. But now you know how to recognize it. Start observing yourself. Catch moments when you automatically seek justifications for your actions. And remember, true courage lies in the ability to tell yourself the truth. If you have questions or have your own observations on this topic, be sure to share them in the comments. I will answer each of them, and subscribing to the channel will give you the opportunity to receive new information about the path to your true self and become a participant in this amazing process of self-knowledge. Remember, awakening begins with realizing that we are asleep.